Hi, I'm Ben, and this is We're Done Pretending, the Reflective Rebels podcast. I'm a coach and rebel working with small business owners to spread a mission of joy. Spread a mission of joy? See, I've gone wrong already. I'm doing this live for the first time and I knew I was going to mess it up. I'm on a mission to spread joy. Joy that comes from understanding who you are, from knowing what you want from life, and finding the courage to go out there and get it, despite what shit life throws at you. Each fortnight, I sit down on the sofa with a small business owner who's brave enough to tell the real story, to set aside the shiny LinkedIn version of their life and open up about the joy, the crap, the mess and the meaning. Because I believe that hearing someone else's story can help you feel less alone, can help you probably understand something about your own life, and perhaps inspire you to make a change that's going to bring a little more joy into your life. Because you know what? Your story is not over yet. And joining me on the sofa today is Jim. Jim, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Ben.
Oh, I got a few. Let me just breathe.
And well done with that intro. Amazing. Live and everything.
Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you.
It's really great to have you. So I don't know if you listen to any of my other podcasts, but I usually start with a question just to get us into the flow, and that's a little bit unpredictable. And my question for you today is, when was the last time you did something where your sense of time just drifted away?
Oh, so for me, that's quite an easy question. I love to get out on the fells and I climb and run in the fells. So when I'm there and maybe climbing solo without a rope on some easy climbs or running across the top of the fells, often time is quite meaningless and 3 or 4 or 5 hours can go. And
That's lovely. I love how nature can do that. So when was the last time you were out? Tell us about it.
Oh, well, last time I was out was yesterday.
Brilliant. Go on, tell us about yesterday.
Well, that was like...
In fact, yesterday was torrential rain and floods.
Yeah. So I was down Kentmere, driving through some massive puddles to get there. And actually that was like training. So I had like a pack on my back and I was traipsing around the Kentmere hills with kind of 20 kilograms on my back like a mad idiot. I've not sort of done this kind of structured training before, but it's something I'm doing because I'd like to do some stuff next year. So I was getting extremely wet and tired doing that.
That sounds great.
Do you want to join me next time?
Yeah, but maybe not with the 20 pack on my back. But I loved stomping about in the rain.
Yeah.
I do. I totally get that. And what is it about that, do you think, that means time drifts away?
I think it's that complete absorption in something. I guess being on the fells is something that I've done a lot of. I started age 14, 15, probably younger than that. I'm running and climbing and camping in the caves at Grange. And so it's something really familiar and yet something that's, I'd never been the way I was going. I wasn't going anywhere in particular yesterday. So it's just sort of, you're in that moment of, immediate decisions of okay, once I've gone up this steep bit and my legs are really burning, where am I going after that? And I don't know until I get there. So it's just that complete absorption in the moment.
I love that. And do you think part of that is the not knowing where you're going thing? Some of my favourite walks have just been like, right, I'm just going to go and see what happens.
Yeah, I'm quite known for not knowing where I'm going sometimes, which wasn't great when I was trying to do more, outdoor tickets when you're meant to know exactly where you are. But I've kind of always enjoyed that, the creative aspect of it maybe. So either like not know where I'm going at all and then working it out and getting back, or, the working out the best way between maybe different climbs if I'm linking them up. And I love that creative process of being off the beaten track and finding often little sheep trods or the best way from here to there. Yeah, I'll always love that.
Yeah. I've not done enough of that this year. I'm missing that. Yeah, you reminded me. I should get my butt out on some adventures.
What's stopping you?
Some physical things have stopped me this year, which has been a bit
okay.
frustrating. But you've just got to sort of accept them, haven't you? And do what you can do. But I'm getting more and more out there. So yeah, a nice reminder today. So you said you're about 14. Can you remember your first experience? You know, those formative experiences that sort of hooked you.
Yeah, I mean, so from an early age, I went camping. There's an organisation called Forest School Camps, which I was in London up to the age of 10.
Right.
And from year dot, so I went camping. So I guess the outdoors has always been a thing for me, and like singing in the outdoors, being with people in the outdoors and community and things. I've always kind of, when you're that age, you don't realise it, but I've always been there. But yeah, no, I distinctly remember going out with my friend Simi to the Northern Lakes, somewhere down Borrowdale, and sort of getting taken climbing for the first time and thinking, yeah, this is for me. I like this.
How did it feel that first time?
Strangely familiar, I think. Like, oh, yeah, I get this. Maybe I'd always climbed around a lot, and so it was just an extension of climbing, but we had ropes, and yeah, I immediately felt, yeah, this is me. This is something I can do, and I love this. Mm.
How did that come about then? So the kid in London to get that sort of cross their path and find this outdoors.
Yeah, I mean, so I guess the reason, you know, you talk about this podcast being moments that change you, and I guess you'd trace that back to 4 years earlier, age 6, when my mum and dad split up.
Yeah.
And we ended up in not a great estate in London after having, you know, sort of living in a nice middle-class area. And tough few years. You know, I think back to that and, yeah, sleeping with a knife under my pillow and feeling very insecure and knowing my mum wasn't right as well. And, you know, that was a big moment that changed me. And then somewhere within that time, we went on a holiday to the Lake District. And I know Mum kind of felt like, oh, this feels like home. This is where we need to be. And ended up in this little hamlet called Wellrash between like Bolton Houses and Ireby. And, you know, so quite a difference from the life I'd known.
Yeah.
And, you know, ripples of that, you know, continue now. But a wonderful thing that came out of that is being there in the Lake District and then meeting people and Simi, and he took me climbing. So, you know, that you know, difficult time and definitely a life-changing event, if you look at it like that, led to this wonderful kind of relationship with the Lake District Hills and climbing and running and adventure. That stayed with me. So yeah, that's kind of a long story of how I ended up being there. Yeah,
it's really interesting, isn't it? Because over the course of this series, a lot of times these dramatic changes to people's lives have come about. There has been a painful aspect to that story, you know, and a lot of change does come from those moments. Yeah, it's really hard to know. And well, you know, you reflect back at it, and often the moments that you end up, you know, I'm 50 now, and you sort of think back and, oh, you know, what are things that changed me? And I don't know how aware you are at the time that they are life-changing events, but it's only sometime in retrospect. And then it's just not knowing what's going to happen, right? You know, something that can seem like a terrible thing, and is a terrible thing, but wonderful things can come out of that as well. So you're about 11, have I got that maths right? Sleeping with a knife under your pillow?
Oh, I'd have been a bit
older?
Bit younger than that.
Bit younger?
Yeah, so, because we moved up to Cumbria when I was 10, so I was probably 7. Yeah, and just because, yeah, I mean, I think people, and especially young men who've been through that time where maybe the dad figure's not around anymore, and they sort of take on some kind of responsibility without really knowing about it. And we weren't in the safest of places, lots of broken windows, got broken into a lot, petrol getting siphoned out the car, and somewhere I took it upon myself to feel like I needed to, protect myself and the family. I think it's
Yeah. You might not be able to answer this question, but do you think, because often those early experiences that shape us, they stick with us. Do you think that sense of responsibility, that protector, that breadwinner, masculine thing, do you think that has weaved through and affected things in any way?
Yeah, I mean, 100%. I don't know about the kind of, it's interesting you use the word masculine. I think if I look at relationships and things, I've definitely tended to and can still have a tendency to sort of take on a rescuing role, which I need to still be careful of, I think. It certainly has lived with me, yeah.
And then contrast then that with the lakes and that sort of part of your childhood.
Yeah, it's so interesting, isn't it? I remember when we were kind of leaving, and it wasn't, it was like I didn't want to leave at the time because you don't want to leave what you know. I think, something that, if I think about, and then the lakes has brought loads of joy, and I choose to live here now, and I wouldn't change a thing. But it certainly brought about a sense of, where do I belong? And, that's definitely been a thread in my life as well, of knowing London quite well, and sort of, you end up being that person. Like, where do I belong at times, and who is really me? I think that's something that, but a positive of that is, I think, sort of understanding how life can be different for different people. I left a world where everyone went to, in the place before mum and dad split up, where everyone kind of went to private school and had that privilege, and then you're up in the northern lakes and life's very different. But underneath it all, there's just people.
Yeah.
And, it has made me fight for, the work I've done has been when I was in, a teacher, and then, leadership in schools has always been about wanting to work in the places where people have it tougher, maybe don't have the life experiences that lead to them understanding the amazing opportunities in life and wanting to give them some of that, so being in the lakes, I suppose, led to a lot of the outdoors, and I trained to be a teacher of like outdoor education and things, and something that was really important to me when I was thinking about wanting to do is like really wanted to make a difference. And maybe there's an element of like making a difference for kids like me without knowing at the time, and hence wanting to work in tough state schools where maybe without me those kids wouldn't get that experience of doing some outdoor stuff or like the personal development type stuff, rather than a private school where perhaps those kids would get that anyway. So that's definitely been a driver in my life.
Yeah. So you became a teacher.
I did become a teacher. I became a teacher, and I smile because I actually have spent not that much time in the classroom.
Okay.
and part of that's because I'm doing the outdoor bits. But also maybe it's a personality thing. I kind of quickly went into like curriculum leadership and you know, I have the utmost respect, and, you know, just these amazing teachers who manage to keep going really in what quite tough environments of, like, you know, the grind of that every day of the classroom. Still, they're the people I still admire probably most in life. Still, but I smile because, yeah, no, I kind of went into leadership and with a kind of the idea that being able to affect more people through moving up. Interestingly, yeah. Fast forward, I'm sure there's bits in between I need to talk about, but, you know, fast forward that really ended up, you know, trying to change these big things, and somewhere along that line losing myself really in it all, and ending up feeling like a cog in the machine. And you know, so that's an interesting thing that I still struggle with. I love education. I love the world of education. I love schools. Sometimes I feel a bit sad where they're at, and I feel a bit sad that, did I really change anything? Maybe for a few people, and that's great. But yeah.
We'll come back to that then. So let's just take a few steps back to that first calling to be a teacher, to make a difference. Where did it start? What was that decision? Yeah. When did that application form go in?
Yeah, I wish I'd kind of, like, I don't know if I'm the kind of person that is makes decisions in a very structured way. I don't know, you know, like, it wasn't like I weighed up the pros and cons and thought, yeah, this is what I'm going to do. It kind of happened. I've been up in Scotland in Glenmore Lodge, so it's like an outdoor centre up there, and ended up on a thing called Night Watch, which was like a training instructor scheme, and was coming to the end of that in my wild times probably. So coming into an inglorious end of that, where some pants got hoisted up an Olympic flagpole, and it didn't go down well. But you know, the thing of becoming a teacher, the kind of it's just an idealism really, of like, and I still got this sort of ridiculous idealism. How do you change the world? Good. How do you make a bit of difference? And it's like, well, education, right? Singing Michael Jackson song here. But you know, it did come from that. Go ahead. It did come about from that. And probably, you know, if I'd given it more thought, I might have kind of put, what does it actually mean for me in it all somewhere, which I didn't do actually. I just thought, this seems like a great idea, and I'm going to change it, and I'm going to bring more like outdoor ed and experiential ed into the school system, because that's what it needs, and bloody hell, it needs it now more than ever. And, you know, so yeah, that's where it all came from.
Yeah, I love that, and we'll come back to the me bit, because maybe, you know, that comes back in later. But it's important to recognise that we don't need a plan always. We don't have to have gone through all the pros and cons. We can follow our gut. If something is calling us, we can go for it, and that is just as justified as the, you know, as the sitting down and doing a 20-page pro and con list and understanding. You know, follow your gut. Yeah, great.
I've never. It's all I've ever done. Yeah, to be honest, it really is all I've ever done. Yeah. I don't make.
So, what was your first job then? You did your outdoor ed training. Did you go and teach outdoor ed after that?
Yeah, so really close to here, in Brampton at William Howard. Was my first ever job. I taught science there, and outdoor ed as well. Sort of led the Duke of Edinburgh and all that kind of stuff there. Loved that, and then like a big move with another example of an unplanned sort of like have I thought this through event, but with Ruby was my daughter, who's 19 now, was young at the time. From there, I got a job as the head of personal development at a school in southeast London.
Okay, now that is a jump.
Yeah, that is a jump, isn't it?
Yeah, I didn't see that one coming.
Yeah.
So you're in William Howard, which for people who don't know is sort of, it's a big high school at the time, but it's rural Cumbria.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then somehow this opportunity in South East London, were you looking for it? How did it?
I'm
testing your memory,
I can't remember. I must have been, right? I must have been. And I think there was a feeling that we wanted to be in. So, there's two big places in my life. It's London and it's the Lake District. and I've, I guess it's always been like, I love both those places. They're incredibly different, but I love both those places. Yeah. And it's been like, so where do I want to live and visit almost? And that's changed. So when I was in London, I tried to go, and definitely for me now, it's like, I want to live here, and I still love going down there. But it was a pull of like a really interesting job, maybe feeling like that the culture that London can bring, all the different people, and that was actually, in some ways a great place to bring up kids. Yeah. Other people say it's an awful place to bring up kids, and you can, there's pros and cons there. But so, it happened, and I kind of got this job, was like head of personal development, which was this amazing.
And what does that mean?
Yeah, well, it's
for
interesting.
The head of development for the kids or for the staff?
For the kids. So this was like a job, and it was bringing together sort of PE, but also with, at that time, there's lots of things like citizenship and PSHE and all these kind of like bits outside the main curriculum. It's trying to like really interesting job, trying to integrate them into one meaningful curriculum, which I was trying to do. And I can see
where you're talking about where your desire to change things had come from, and education, that role seems like a really good fit for those changes.
I guess I got it despite probably, a lack of experience of things, because I definitely would have come in with saying very different things without knowing it to anyone else, and trying to bring that experiential education outside the classroom bit into it. And it was fascinating, so you're working with kids on estates, like a lot of gang stuff going on, and a lot of what I was trying to do was to get them to tell their stories and have conversations, and using like video to do that, and talking to people in their community, and I guess sort of trying to make some sense of their lives and their identities through that process. It was really interesting times. I think back on my kind of time in schools, it's definitely the most joyous time, and probably actually the time when I think I made the biggest actual difference. Yeah.
Can you remember any specific kids, or is there any moments where you thought, this is why I'm doing it?
Yeah, I can remember. I can just remember this kind of, there's these things, I still remember what they were called. They're called digital blue cameras. They're sort of cheap technology at the time where we could and giving them to these kids, and basically, with some structure there, but kind of basically like just go and talk to people, go and make some. And it was also the time of like Big Brother diary room and all that kind of thing. So they got this idea of like talking to camera, and just some of the stuff they came back with of their lives, like poignant stuff, and like me learning so much around, places they couldn't walk and things they couldn't do because of gang stuff, and, just what these kids' lives were like. Within the sort of limited by really one estate. Yeah. And they, even another estate, there would be other gangs, and, lots of stuff to do with race and things going on there. But really what the powerful thing was, that the powerful stories they were telling about themselves and what it meant for them. I still remember that. Yeah.
Wow. Sounds like a great job to be in.
Yeah.
Probably tough as well. There must have been aspects of that were difficult.
Yeah, it was really tough. It was really tough. And this isn't like an education podcast, but, it certainly made me examine my left-wing liberal assumptions around what a great education looks like. And
go on then.
I guess,
you can't say that, and I'm not going to follow it up with...
Well, I think it's the first time I really started thinking about, the importance of structure and order, and needing some of that especially for kids who have a real lack of structure and safety and order in their lives. So probably going into that, education, surely it's about choice and freedom and things like that, but actually having to work quite hard to create the conditions where 25 of these kind of kids can sit together in the same place and actually talk to each other there had to be some rules around that. And yeah, so that's it was interesting to sort of to really look at that. So it's not an education podcast, but I suppose
so that's contrasted to the outdoor ed, experiential, freedom, choice,
autonomy, exactly, all those things. And perhaps I still massively believe in all those things, and I believe in them more deeply than ever. But perhaps I also, and I hadn't really thought about this, but I sort of traced that almost to my work later on with. You'd almost apply the same thing to staff in a school. And, if you're going to have autonomy and choice and freedom, it's very hard to have that if there's chaos and a lack of order.
Yeah.
Because you get into kind of, everyone's having to survive for themselves. Like whether, you've got the kids there surviving for themselves, or in tough schools, you've got all the teachers kind of having to survive for themselves in their own way, in their own classrooms.
Yeah.
And, is that, there's autonomy in that. But perhaps if we work together and create some more order and create a structure, that allows all of us to be more creative and freedom, because we're not constantly having to battle to create that ourselves. So it's that sort of power of community and consensus and doing things together.
It's really interesting because I think when you look at this podcast and I say mess and meaning, I think that part of that is things aren't black and white when we're dealing with humans, and there aren't always right or wrong answers. And often there's this duality or this yin yang or this push pull, or there's two things can be true at the same time. And I think that's one of those scenarios where both of those things are probably equally true, equally right, and equally have their place. And I don't know what the right answer is because there isn't one, but it's a messy middle of we need both. We need both.
Yeah, and there's so many. I can think about education, but in life, sort of these kind of false dichotomies, almost, right? Between education is or knowledge or skills or structure or freedom, and actually the truth lies somewhere in the middle of all those things. And actually, whatever you're applying to this to, whether it's education or the work anyone might be in, or your lives, what at the heart of it, what you've got is people. Yeah, and I think it's so easy to forget that, and at the heart of it all, what you've got is talking and conversation and connection. Yeah, and I think you can just apply that anywhere, and it's a great thing to remember when you get lost in the. I think you get lost in the sort of the big picture, the things, and it's like, but actually, if we remember to talk and connect for ourselves, and in our work, we're not going to be going too far wrong.
Yeah. Just a quick pause. At Reflective Rebels, I'm on a mission to spread joy. I create these podcast conversations because I think we're all hungry for something real. Not advice, not quick fixes, just honest human stories that remind us we're not alone in the mess. If this conversation is making you feel something, would you help me grow the rebellion and share it with just one person who might need to hear it? Maybe someone who's also tired of pretending everything's fine. Because every person who finds these stories makes this little rebellion against perfectionism and exhaustion a little bit stronger. Back to our conversation. So you didn't stay in that role forever, as we know, you've mentioned before. How long were you doing that for, do you think?
The actual role, 2 or 3, maybe 4 years.
Yeah, okay, quite a good stint then.
A decent stint, but not that long.
Yeah. And what random...
it's going to be random next.
I'm learning a pattern here, that I'm not going to try and predict what you did
stuff
next.
Happens. Well, so during that, I got on this thing called Future Leaders, which was sort of trying to create the next generation of head teachers and leaders in education, I guess.
Yeah.
So again, I can't remember what I ended up applying for it, and sort of realizing, this is quite a big thing when I got onto it. Some people have really knew about this, and it just kind of happened to me. What an interesting time. The training there, and it kind of meant, big risk again when you look back on it. Almost sort of leaving a job, doing this thing, getting seconded onto a leadership team, and then actually I was lucky. I got made a deputy head, and within 3 months of that had a full-time position. But actually, I didn't know that was coming. So that was the next big leap, the next adventure.
Right, we're going to come back to the deputy head then for a minute, but I want to weave back in family and the outdoors, which is the other sort of things that we've picked up on. So you left Cumbria with a young child, Ruby, did you say?
One young child, yeah. And I've got two. Ollie's who's 16 now, so that.
So was he born in London? Yeah. So what's going on outside of work, I suppose, in that part of your life is what I'm getting at. Otherwise, we're missing a big part of the picture.
Yeah, I mean, look, if there was one thing, I guess, in my life that I've dedicated more to, and is sort of almost more important to me than anything else, has been to try my best to be a good dad.
Yeah.
And just, unconditional love, being there. We can come back to that, I'm sure. But, that's, if there's one thing that matters to me, it's probably that. And honestly, at that time, getting into that and then working hard, and you think about Cumbria and climbing, not enough of that. It was a lot of work.
Ramped up.
Yeah.
I know what being a teacher means.
Yeah, and I'd alluded to it, and it's like, this is like the non-planned bit, and, the wonderful stuff that can come from, going with your gut and your interests and your, letting stuff happen. But also, within all that, I mean, what that really meant was really long days. And increasingly, this is a time in, I still say it's sort of probably the darkest time in education. It was a time of league tables and gaming the system in all kinds of ways, kids going missing from school rolls and dodgy practices in lots of different ways. And it's not a time I'm proud of, really. I think I became quite good at getting schools better results somewhere along the way, and maybe convincing myself in various ways that through that I was making a difference and doing something good. There's an argument that says get kids in tough situations better exams and you're doing them a favour, and it's not completely wrong. But I think a lot of bad stuff was done in the name of that. Personally there, sort of becoming quite lost in all of that, and at some point just going, what am I doing? And I'm away from home a lot, and so that wasn't, that led in the end to a bit further on leaving and coming back this way and getting that balance. But so I suppose personally, not enough climbing, not enough of the things I love, not enough stuff that fed my soul. And
how did that manifest? How did that kind of come out, if you like?
Oh, it's an interesting question. How did that come out for me personally?
Yeah, at the time. So I suppose this is for people listening, isn't it? I'm asking these questions.
Yeah.
It's because I burnt out in 2015, and it's like, what are those signs that we don't listen to early enough, that things aren't quite right? What were the signs?
Such a great question, and maybe to talk about what happened there. So a few years after that, moved back up to Kendal, and too much water under the bridge, and long story short, me and my wife separated. So somewhere along all of that, relationship broke down irretrievably. What did I do? I probably withdrew into myself too much at times. There's you can sort of see through what I've said so far, there's a risk-taking aspect to, I like risk, which is a great thing, and also a thing you've got to be a bit careful about. And perhaps, climbing and things gets a certain thing out of me. So I'd look, and honestly, at times it came out and I did some pretty stupid things. Got pissed with mates and ended up, just a lot started coming out and getting over the top, basically. So I think maybe that's one sign. There was like, a couple of mornings where I go, what was that? Kind of hilarious in some ways, but so yeah, that I guess that was happening. Yeah, looking back, sort of, I just remember feeling lost with it all, disconnected.
And you're bravely admitting some flaws there, which and some mistakes. Because it's easy to sit on this sofa and talk about the stuff that has gone wrong. It's harder to sit and talk about the stuff that we've done wrong, I think. We have to kind of get peace with all of that, don't we? Yeah,
stuff happens in life, right? And that, affects us, and maybe we learn coping mechanisms, I'm thinking about stuff from childhood maybe, and that really work well for us at that point. And they're how we survive, but then they can kind of live with us. So, and they become not so useful.
Yeah.
And, and it's really nice to, that's again, comes back to conversations, some great conversations I've had where I've kind of realised, realizations of like, oh shit, yeah, like that's something I do and that's why. And sort of having some compassion for ourselves. Again, it makes sense. And yeah, I have made mistakes. Christ knows I've made mistakes. And but here's why. And you know what? I'm not gonna make those mistakes again. Like if you look at that time, it's like I've got ability to shut off emotionally. I'm still good at that if I need to do it. And actually, that can be a decent skill, but in the wrong situation, it's a terrible thing to happen.
Yeah, I suppose eventually it will catch us up, I think, won't it?
Yeah, so that's just an example. So, again, the power of conversation, the power of just realising stuff, and then also realising that we've got an opportunity to do things differently. Now, it's funny. I don't know why this has come up, but it just seems to me there's we don't really understand life, do we?
No.
And I mean that like just generally, but also like scientifically. We can come into religion, all this stuff. Yeah. But what we do know is like we are alive, right? And it's pretty amazing and miraculous. And it just seems to me there's some kind of energy there that's a positive energy that kind of, I've talked about order and, bringing order from chaos, but that's something to do with life, right? There's this energy that entropy is when everything breaks down to nothing. And I just, believe in that positive energy.
It keeps moving. We keep growing.
Yeah.
We get up again. We carry on.
Yeah. And
awful things can happen. And amazing, glorious stuff can be happening in the same moment.
Yep, exactly. And that's all we really know, right? And so, through harder times, and that's all I really know. And I think of Nell, my sister here, who I lost during COVID. And, I think of my mum in that and trying to put myself in that place of losing a child. It was just unimaginably awful, but even through that, life goes on, and even through that, there's positivity and joy still, and if that's the case, things are always actually going to be okay if we can just keep that positivity.
So you talked about coping mechanisms in a relatively negative sense, but I'm interested in what you think you were able to do to remind yourself of that positivity, to learn. Did you learn different coping mechanisms? How did you get from that place that was dark to recognizing that change needed to happen and change happening? What did you do? Teach us.
Oh, bloody hell. Yeah, don't come to me for any lessons. I think it just got... there's lots in there. I mean, what did I do? I mean, in the end, I just knew something needed to change, and so it was the move. And again, it was I found a way of making that happen. I don't know if that's a coping mechanism as such. I think with the coping mechanisms, it was just just sometimes it was just that reflection on things that work at a particular time don't necessarily work for the rest of the time. And, we're all, there's sort of this analogy, isn't it? Like if we're all stories, stories that don't go anywhere and stay the same are really quite boring, aren't they? And no story we ever read does that. It kind of it moves, and it's, so I kind of think of life like that, and sometimes it's just moving on to the next chapter. I think, like, personality-wise, I've always, at heart, I'm an optimist, and at heart, I look to the future. So I think at the dark times, if anything, what do I do? I just imagine a better future, and kind of think about what that looks like, and then go about making it happen.
Yeah,
I don't know.
So, are you a deputy head at this point, or have they moved on a bit after?
Yeah, so I was a deputy, and then I was a head of school, and I did this sort of role as director of school improvement for a multi-academy trust.
Oh, right. So you were really ramping up career-wise.
Yeah, I guess
probably
so.
Pressure-wise, plate spinning-wise.
Yeah, and perhaps that was like, rather than a in retrospect, perhaps that was rather than a like, oh, if I just move on to this next position, maybe it's going to be better.
Was that the drive?
I don't know. There's some kind of ambition in there.
Yeah.
There's some kind of
what kind of ambition? What's that? What was that bit that was? You went teacher, future leaders path, deputy head, director of school improvement. That's a career. That's a ye olde career trajectory.
Yeah. A part of it is liking change and challenge and adventure and risk. Maybe I think a part of it is that. A part of it did come from a place of thinking I'm making more of a difference to more kids if I do that.
Yeah,
there's an argument there. I'd argue with myself about that now, but I think at the time there was that, and maybe it's just the opportunity that I took, and living in London, more money came with it, and so just no, at that time, I guess I did seem that was my career, so that's what I did. And
then another leap must have come, because obviously I know that you're living in Cumbria, so
so
there must have come a moment where that shifted again.
Yeah, well, it was just time for a change, and kind of really realising that, as I've talked about, this is not feeding my soul. This is not who I want to be. I felt like an ex-climber. I felt like I wasn't giving my best really in any of the situations. I felt very divided of like, there's work me and there's real me. I didn't like any of that. I think that was probably a moment that changed that, and it was like, I do not want to be a part of this system anymore. And
and then where did that take you?
We ended up back in Kendal, and for a little while, something called the Kendal Collaborative Partnership, which I was sort of executive officer of for a couple of years, but and I did that part-time and set up a sort of school leadership consultancy, which I ran, called Authentic Education, ran for a decade. Basically after that, which was brilliant. It gave me the flexibility to be there for my kids. I was basically sort of working 3 days a week. Could be there. Learned a lot about coaching and working with people, and so that was a nice time in my life, so it felt like I was making difference. It's still within the system of schools, but a lot more climbing came into my life.
Yeah.
A lot more adventure came back into my life. A lot of time with my kids came back into my life. So, yeah, that was great. That was great.
Yeah. So you said there was this work you and this you, and it feels more you, that part of your life. How would you describe that version of you that's finding a bit more contentment and joy in that time?
Well, I mean, you've just sort of just described it, I guess, almost in that it just finding some more contentment and joy, and feeling content was a lovely thing. Yeah, and it's been an ongoing journey. It's not finished, and it's going to be an ongoing journey.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I think if there's, now more than ever, probably what I'm really, there's just me, and I don't want there to be a work me and another me, and I'll show up as me, and that's kind of easier anyway, isn't it?
It is easier, but have there been bits of that are scary?
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, what it's actually led to, this is not knowing actually what that is at times still. So I kind of deeply know me in some ways, in certain contexts. Like I think I deeply know me as a dad and a person in relation to other people maybe, and, my flaws and the things I can work on and what's led to that and all that. I reflect on that kind of stuff a lot, but who is me in this new world of LinkedIn? I don't bloody know. And that is really, really interesting times, and I'm kind of sometimes struggling with that and just going round in circles, and other times going, this is just fascinating. I'm like, who am I in all of this? And how do I come across, and how do I put myself across? I don't know. But
so what's different about that bit where you're less sure or more uncertain? The difference is it's less sure. And it's interesting, isn't it? We use this analogy, and it's like in certain aspects of my life, and normally, like if I'm at a party, just literally at a party, it's just me and other people, I tend to be kind of like, I love talking to people, and I'll be kind of quite in the centre, and without meaning to, that'll happen quite naturally. So I guess I've got that confidence in those situations, and I look at different aspects of my work, I've got confidence. But then in terms of some of the world of like coaching and learning and development and things like outside of the education space and LinkedIn, I'm more like that person at the edge of the party, kind of not really like, what do I say? Does this sound stupid? Trying this out, and like, I've overthought it. It does sound stupid. and so really that's the analogy of like, I'm kind of on the edge, go, I don't know, like, hello. And actually feeling like the only answer I've got to that is to stop overthinking it and just genuinely be me. Like, don't try and come across like this. Don't try and give this message. Don't try and because I think it all just comes across as inauthentic and horrible. I don't feel comfortable with it. This is sort of interesting being a newcomer. But there's sort of like real strength in that. I was going to call it beginner's mind. It sounds a bit wanky, but it's just sort of. No, I'm all for a bit of mindfulness.
Yeah, but you know what I mean. It's really interesting, and I've not got any particular answers around it, other than I know when it feels crap is when I'm sitting on my own, talking to myself, going round in circles, trying ideas out that I think is the most amazing idea ever for 5 minutes, and then talking to myself. That feels really horrible, and disconnected. And what feels great is when I just reach out and chat, like we've talked, and like with other people, just going, you know what? I don't exactly know where I'm at the moment, but kind of here's where I'm at. And it's like you're sort of talking about, it's messy, and it's like, I I don't know what I'm talking about really, but through that comes more clarity and I feel connected again. And that sort of just feels good.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I'm at a similar point myself. I literally this morning reached out to a mentor and said, do you know what? I'm at a point where I'm going around in circles in my own head and I have to talk this through with another human. Otherwise I could go around in circles for the next year. And it's not helpful or healthy. So I think that
and isn't that interesting
chatting it through.
Yeah. And isn't that interesting because I'd look at you and kind of go, like you have got it so much more sorted than me. Like you're further down this road than me in this thing. And it's like, isn't that interesting?
I'm a confused mess.
And isn't that interesting? And it's like, we
don't often compare yourself to others. I think that is crucial.
Yeah. And being that
absolutely
person,
crucial.
But you're more likely to do that perhaps, like when you're that person at the party, not feeling confident.
You are. When you're all looking around thinking everyone else is
doing this better than I am.
Yeah. And they're probably as shit scared or in a mess or whatever as everyone else. That's the weird unpretending thing of this. Right now I'm really confused about next year and what I'm going to do. And it's that duality again. You can feel totally you and then be thinking, should I have more structure to this? Should there be more message? And then thinking, sod it and whatever. But
And perhaps different people are going to feel more comfortable at different levels of...
Yeah. Well, it's comfort zone growth, isn't it? Yeah. So we're sort of around about what's next, really, aren't we? You're at this interesting point, I think, where you don't have a plan again, which we've learned is all right.
Yeah.
But what is next?
Yeah, no, I don't know. It feels exciting. It feels more exciting now than it did even a month ago, probably. We've come back to this again and again, and what I do know is that I've got quite a breadth of experience and expertise amongst some stuff, and about helping people and businesses have better conversations, and I feel really happy saying that and happy going, you know what, if I can just bring some more connections and better conversations that lead to great actions and, the human side of that and the kind of humanizing systems that help that happen and make sure that happens, then I feel like I'll be proud of that and I feel like I'll be doing something good and I feel like that'll be bringing value to other people as well. And so it's going to involve something to do with that, which is incredibly general, isn't it?
No, it's not. It's coming. I think as you've learned throughout your career, you just got to take a jump and give it a go.
Yeah.
And the what it is will come from doing it sometimes, doesn't it?
Yeah.
You're beautifully bringing together this, who you are, your vast wealth of experience, and what the world needs. And if someone can find that, then that's what Reflective Rebels is about for me. That alignment of joy and action and meaning and purpose.
Yeah, and just as you were saying that, and I hadn't sort of thought of this either, it's just interesting that maybe, we've talked about, and you talk about, it started off with big ideas and ideals and changing the world with this kind of like educational philosophy and, then going and it still can, don't get me wrong, there's stuff in that and it's like, but actually what we're talking about now is actually everything comes down to connection, to people, to conversation. And I think that's increasingly the truth for me. What brings me joy? Well, it's connecting with people. It doesn't need to be big stuff. It's just that feeling of connection and love and sharing things that just brings me real joy. We talked about, just feeling content, and that's when I feel most content. Like perhaps with my family around me, wonderful new partner Kate, and then sort of when we're, and then for me there's that, and then there's always just going to be. It's like in order to enjoy that, I need some adventure. I need to go and do something bloody stupid out in the hills, basically. Get rid of. I've got a lot of energy. run for a long time, climb some stuff, find some stuff, get blown around, feel the elements, and at times it's wonderful out there. You can scream into those fells in the wind, and they don't give a shit. and so I think it's that kind of, for me, it's that mixture of needing to do that in order to enjoy what really makes me content, which is that conversation and connection.
Amazing. And thank you so much. What a great place to end our conversation and connection this morning, which is what this podcast is all about. Thank you.
Oh, thanks, Ben.
It's been brilliant. Thank you so much for listening. If Jim's story of finding himself and finding himself again and finding himself again and still not quite knowing where he's going, but finding joy in that, has stuck with you, then I'd love you to sign up to hear more of these stories at reflectiverebels.co.uk/newsletter. And I'd really appreciate it if you could subscribe to the podcast to hear more of these tales of the real lives of human beings and the real lives of Reflective Rebels. I've been Ben. This has been We're Done Pretending, a Reflective Rebels podcast.